Much like the Maiden in Black from Demon Souls, the mysterious plain doll we find in the hunter's dream is a source of strength, solace and companionship for the hunter. She is with us from the very beginning of the game right through to the end of our harrowing journey. Whether we choose to end the dream, or to honour the wishes of those who came before, or ascend to the next stage of our evolution, she's by our side. Yet despite this, we understand little of the doll's true nature. Who or what exactly is the doll? Where does the doll come from? Why is the doll so powerful? Why is there another doll in the abandoned old workshop, and why can't I interact with it? Why do the winter lanterns look so much like our doll? In this video I'm going to tell you the tale of a quiet and unfaltering friend, the kind any of us would wish for. In order to understand the doll as it exists in the hunter's dream, we first have to study the relationship between two characters, Gerhman, the first hunter, and Lady Maria of the Cainhurst bloodline. As the first hunter since the discovery of the Eldritch Truth by Byrgenwerth, Gerhman was the progenitor of the workshop and the fast-paced combat style employed by all hunters, but he also had students to whom he taught his craft. Within the Hunter's Nightmare, at the top of the cathedral housing the Astral Clock Tower, we find Lady Maria, one of these students. Sitting in a chair slumped over with a sword on her lap, blood trickling down her blouse, we find her facing the entrance, almost as if she's expecting a visitor. What's most stunning about Maria is that she looks eerily similar to the doll, so similar it's hard not to believe they're the same person, even their voices sound the same. But Maria wasn't like the other students of Gerhman, oh no. Maria is distantly related to the undead queen, but had a great admiration for Gerhman, unaware of his curious mania. So, Gerhman held a curious mania for Maria. But mania is such a strong word. It's suggestive of an obsessive desire for something or someone, far beyond what most would consider love. Yet Maria was unaware of Gerhman's feelings, and his obsession, it seems, was forever unrequited. Forever because Maria passed away some time after the incident in the fishing hamlet. But she didn't die at the hands of a bloodthirsty beast or a wrathful great one. No, Maria took her own life. Within the derelict old fishing hamlet, deep inside a cold well, we find Maria's own weapon, the rakuyo. And so it seems that one day she abandoned her beloved rakuyo, casting it into a dark well when she could stomach it no longer. What was it that she couldn't stomach? Was it the events that transpired when the hunters and the Byrgenwerth scholars travelled to the fishing hamlet many years ago? Or did the endless nightly hunts simply wear down her belief in what they were fighting for? Whatever the reason, the guilt and disgust she felt drove her to take her own life. And when she went, so did the only joy in Gerhman's world. We don't know how many years have passed since Maria took her life. All we know is that Gerhman is still here, and so is the doll, helping us along, giving us succor, in this dream, our home, our captor. Gerhman never forgot Maria though. He couldn't. The nature of the obsessed mind means that it can't simply let go of the past. Such a course of action can't be reconciled with a pathological desire that's been the object of such a mind for so many years. But with that object now extinguished, there was no outlet left for Gerhman, nowhere to turn when the troubles of the world felt too much to bear, only pain remained. But the pain, like all things, did pass. In the end, Gerhman found his deliverance in the scheme concocted by a man who wished to transcend the narrow confines of this world and reach another plane of existence altogether. That man was Lawrence, student of Master Willem and first vicar of the Healing Church. Every great one loses its child, and then yearns for a surrogate. So speaks the umbilical cord of a great one's child, and thus did Lawrence assure his old compatriot when he came to him with a plan to summon a truly special being. A great one no living person had laid eyes on before, one that could only be beckoned in the light of a red moon, though they would need materials for a special ritual, a sacred artifact taken from a great one's child, and a surrogate. Would Lawrence's scheme work? Would this great one provide them with the answers they'd been searching for all this time? Gerhman couldn't be sure, but there were things he was sure of. He had lost Maria, and no one, not Lawrence, not Willem, not even his closest students could understand the depths of his suffering. But hope was not lost, for the great ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit, and often answer when called upon. In his desperation, his madness, his mania, Gerhman went along with Lawrence's plan, but not for knowledge, not for evolution, not even for banal curiosity. He did it for desire. But Gerhman's salvation was to become his private hell. Untold years later, if a lone hunter were to walk under the impressive edifice of the Healing Church workshop, he'd find a door that leads to an area purposefully hidden out of sight. Here, in the abandoned workshop, once a place of learning and camaraderie, the ghosts of the past still linger. In a wooden box we find a set of clothes that would fit a human-sized doll. A deep love for the doll can be surmised from the fine craftsmanship of this article, and the care with which it was kept. It borderlines on mania, and exudes a slight warmth. Mania, an excessive enthusiasm or desire.
I am a doll created by you humans. Would you ever think to love me? Of course. I do love you. Isn't that how you've made me?
When we find the doll, we learn the true extent of Gerhman's madness. With his beloved Maria gone, he resolved to replace her, so he built a life-size mannequin in her image. But he may have gone further than just replicating her look. Just outside the workshop we find a small grave, but the soil above the buried body has been disturbed, and we find a bone lying exposed. And it was here that the ritual took place. The third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. The nameless moon presence wanted a surrogate, and so it took Gerhman as its own. It wanted a proxy to absorb the strength of the hunters, so it took the lifeless doll and gave it clarity. But in order to have clarity, one must have essence. So it looked deep into Gerhman's mind, and saw one vision shining brighter than any other. If we were to take a small hair ornament we find to the doll, she'd shed a tear for us. But the truth is that a doll sheds neither blood nor tears, and thus its nature remains unknown. Whoever thinks this is precious must be troubled by severe naivete. And thus we learn the ultimate folly of Gerhman's actions. He made the doll in Maria's image, hoping the moon presence would instill Maria's soul. What he wanted was a quiet, unfaltering friend, albeit in vain. What he got instead was a pliant slave, and for what good is a slave but to serve? And this particular slave does not just serve Gerhman, but rather any and all hunters that find themselves trapped within the dream.
You're welcome to use whatever you find. Even the doll, should it please you.
Poor Gerhman, left with eternity to ponder his lonely fate, trapped in the dream, serving the will of the moon presence, with only a pale imitation of his beloved for company, an eternal reminder of his failure. No wonder he grew to despise her. And what of the doll? Well, it remembers.
Good hunter, this may sound strange, but have I somehow changed? Moments ago, from some place, perhaps deep within, I sensed a liberation from heavy shackles. Not that I would know. How passing strange.
It remembers and it feels.
What? What is this? I can't remember. Not a thing, only I feel. A yearning, something I never felt before. What's happening to me? Tell me, Hunter, could this be joy?
But let's not forget the abandoned doll in the old workshop. She neither speaks nor does she provide succor. But if we were to look closely... Ah, she does live. If we only had the insight to perceive her love. And so it was that the one doll exists in the dream and the other exists in the waking world, forever waiting, forever watching, a novelty for curious interlopers. But Gerhman and Lawrence weren't the only ones to unlock the secrets of the pale moon. After the inception of the hunter's dream, other groups, eager to learn the eldritch truth for themselves, keenly studied the ritual that took place inside the workshop. Surreptitiously they worked under the cover of shadow, plotting, scheming, dreaming of the day they too would be granted audience in the dream. And succeed they did, to a point. Each dream is unique, but they're all conceived under the same conditions. Every dream is made in the image of a place within the real world. Every dream has a host, a progenitor who beckoned the great ones and became a surrogate. And every dream has an envoy who guides visitors and provides solace as they go on their lonely journeys. But not all dreams are of a pleasant sort. If the ritual were to go wrong, or worse still, if mortal men were to incite the anger of the great ones,
atonement for the wretches. Lay the curse of blood upon them, and their children, and their children's children forevermore.
then the dream would take on a cursed and rotten countenance, and rather than be a realm of solace and learning, it would be a nightmare for all those caught up in its terrible wrath, forever cursed, forever lost. And visitors to the nightmare wouldn't be greeted by a kind and generous envoy helping them on their way, oh no, but instead terrible, twisted beings that avail not understanding, but madness. The doll was created by the hands of men, and given essence by the Great Ones, but she lives for us. We hunters, we who hang upside down, suffering and desperate for release. She will be there for us, guiding our soul while it remains shackled to the dreaming world, so that one day we might wake to a pleasant sunrise, freed from the hunt, freed from our chains. And while our journey will end, she will go on. Long after the hunt and the great ones are lost to time, after all that men have wrought crumbles and turns to dust, she will be waiting. her presence a silent testimony to the hubris of man, the benevolence of gods, and the deep, sorrowful yearning that lives in the soul of all beings.